need to show you this Tictoker spitting some hardcore wisdom on our tax system. And this is stuff we should have been taught in school, but, government schools would never do that. By the way, if you aren't sold yet on Trump being the correct choice for November, well, get ready.
Donald Trump is a wild card. He just made an announcement for a policy proposal that would radically change the way the USA works. You've probably heard he's announced that he doesn't want to tax tips, but he's taken this one step further. Donald Trump wants to roll back the federal income tax. Forever wars require forever taxes. Make America great again. As you can imagine, the demon rats are already yapping about how this is a terrible idea and it's going to destroy the country. Before you make up your mind, please let me just give you some context about the history of the federal income tax. Now, I'm going to reference Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution. Clause 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. There's debate about how to interpret that. Let's get into it. It wasn't until 1861 that we had a federal income tax. Before that, our country relied on tariffs, which is exactly what Donald Trump is proposing. When foreign goods are imported into the United States, there is a tariff tax. Now, when the Coast Guard was first created, it was created to catch smugglers because our trade used to be conducted primarily by ships and sailors. And then over time, trade varied in different states, and this created tension within our union. And eventually, the Civil War started when one of the biggest trading hubs was under fire. In 1861, Confederates fired cannons at Fort Sumter. Then Abraham Lincoln passed a federal income tax because of an emergency. Always be suspicious when the government declares emergency to get money from you or to get you to do something. Anyway, that federal income tax raised $750 million for the Civil War, for the fight. After the Civil War, the income tax was shut down. While making that decision, the Supreme Court stated that a federal income tax should only be in place during emergency war time. No matter what the Supreme Court decides, the federal government continued to grow. Corruption grew as the power of the nation grew. When Woodrow Wilson was in office, he allegedly assumed that tariffs would create war between nations, and the way to achieve world peace was to end tariffs. He introduced the federal income tax and taxed the 3% highest earners of the population. It was a 1% tax over $3,000 per year. You can see how government power gets out of control. Even though this was introduced, again after the Civil War, to tax the rich, now see how it's gotten out of control, but we'll get there. When Woodrow Wilson enacted the income tax, he also lowered tariffs. I just want to note here that this happened in 1913, the same year that the Federal Reserve was created. During World War I, the federal income tax was reinstated because it was an emergency wartime. During World War II, the taxes got even higher. And it was in World War II that everybody started paying income taxes. From the 3% of the richest when Woodrow Wilson first introduced it, World War II was going on, everybody was paying federal income taxes. This is when they changed it. So they started taking your money before you even got a hold of it. The lesson here is that when the government announces an emergency, there's always an ulterior motive. They want your money or they want your freedom. Sometimes they even want your life. When the government has the power to issue a state of emergency and get paid for it, we should be suspicious.